Inside the Huddle with Sky Sports, Neil Reynolds and Jeff Reinebold.
Yes, hello everyone. Welcome to Inside the Huddle. It is Monday after week 14, and there is a lot to dig into. I'm your host, Neil Reynolds, with Jeff Reinebold, who's now over in the UK. Great to have Jeff back in the studio with us on Sunday night. And if you're watching on YouTube, Jeff, I got a new mug. I'm going to raise it.
You are. That is a beautiful thing right there. That is
Detroit Lions, because they're
drinking from the mug of victory.
There's no bandwagon I won't jump on quickly. I can get the job done. So we're going to go through a lot of the games, including we'll go all the way back to Thursday and the Lions win, which was their 11th in a row. But let's start with where our show ended on Sunday night, Jeff. The Los Angeles Rams 44, the Buffalo Bills 42. Matthew Stafford threw for 320 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Puka Nacua had 12 catches, 162 yards, and a touchdown. And there was an opening of about 10 points or so that happened in the middle of the game, and the Bills could never quite catch up.
Yeah, that was an interesting game. I mean, it was a phenomenal game to watch, and it was to call. And for the NFL, that is if you could can one game and show it to somebody and say, "This is NFL football," that would be the game, because it was just really well played. Some great quarterback play, outstanding offense, big time special teams plays, and some opportunistic defense too. So you got a little bit of everything, and that swing that you talked about, where Buffalo kind of got knocked off their feet a little bit and couldn't quite right themselves. And credit to the Rams, because there were a couple times when it got close and you thought, here they come, and they were going to get the momentum. But the Rams, did a great job of controlling the game, really.
Yeah, it got to 38-35, and we thought this is the moment where there's going to be pressure on Matthew Stafford, just march straight down the field again. I mean, that was what was so impressive, the way he responded time and time again. Yeah,
in the drive, the one that is the amazing one to me is the drive where they hit Robinson on the long pass, and then there was a pass interference call and nullified the play, and they still, usually when you have a penalty on a big play like that, those are drive killers. But the Rams just kind of shook it off, and they continued on that drive, and that was, to me, the drive that defined the game, if you will.
The Rams moved to 7-6. Seattle atop of the NFC West at 8-5. With the way Stafford connected with Nacua and Cooper Kupp, Jeff, this is a reminder. This is a dangerous team down the stretch.
There's no question, Neil. And you said it. I think you said it last night on the show. When they are playing well, and you've got a guy like Matt Stafford at quarterback, and Nacua was just outstanding last night, and Kupp was just short of outstanding. So, they've got so many ways they can move the football on you, and 2 good running backs. It was really, really, I thought, a tremendously choreographed performance by the Rams. I thought they had a great plan coming in, and they stuck to that plan and executed the plan all the way down to the end. It was phenomenal.
There was one of those games for the Rams where you have a plan, you execute, and then you hang on for dear life. Because here came Josh Allen, and Josh Allen, he'll much rather have the victory than another notch on the MVP candidacy argument. But he threw for 342 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He rushed for 82 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had 424 yards of offense, accounted for 6 Buffalo touchdowns, and lost.
Incredible. And that 3 touchdown rushing, 3 touchdown throwing performance, that's the first time that's ever been done in the history of the NFL.
Right.
And that, we watched greatness last night. We really did. And Josh Allen has the Mahomes ability to take over a game. And, it was the Rams, the Rams are one of the leading pass rush teams in the National Football League. and he just toyed around with them. He just ran around at will, like the best kid on the school block with the other kids chasing him. It was incredible.
Our stats guru at Sky, Benedict Bermange, gave me this statistic halfway through the second half. He said it was the 5th time in his career that Josh Allen had rushed for 2 touchdowns and thrown for 2 touchdowns in a game. That was the most in NFL history, breaking the tie with Steve Young. But then he went and upped it, as you say, Jeff, 3-3 for Josh Allen. But it was the win for the Rams. And importantly and crucially, it was a 3rd loss for Buffalo. Let's move on to, another great quarterback display, Jeff, the Minnesota Vikings. So this was about Kirk Cousins. After 6 years as a starter for the Vikings, going back to Minneapolis, he would have been hoping to put on a show. This game was close. It was 21-21 going into the 4th quarter. The Vikings pulled away, and Sam Darnold, 22 of 28, 347 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Could we take the clock back a year and just say these are the quarterback stats in this game, and the 2 quarterbacks are Kirk Cousins and Darnold, and you would have said, whoa, wait a second.
Flip it.
You've got it flipped here. We got it wrong here. But Darnold was just, and a lot of times it didn't look pretty, Neil, but he got the job done and really torched that Falcons secondary. There were some balls he threw that were, behind receivers, and he's got Addison can adjust to the football in the air, and Jefferson tracks it as good as anybody in the air. And they just really, really torched that secondary.
Kirk would have looked and seen Jordan Addison having 8 catches, 133 yards, 3 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson, 7 for 132 and 2. So those 2 are over 260 odd yards, 5 touchdowns between them. Kirk's got to shoulder a lot of the blame here, Jeff, but he's working with people like Kyle Pitts who don't want to fight for the football. That's one thing I would say about that. But Kirk threw 2 interceptions. So in the last 4 games, all 4 losses for Atlanta, he's thrown no touchdowns and 8 interceptions. But Darnold had the better supporting cast without question.
And had a better defense too. I thought that the Vikings played a much more total game than the Falcons did. And the Falcons, Neil, the penalties, you're not going to win games in the National Football League with 11 penalties. You're just not going to do it. You're giving up too much yardage, too many, first down conversions because of penalty, and you can't win like that. I am concerned. If I'm a Falcons fan, this looks like Raheem Morris in Tampa Bay again, right? Where not a lot of discipline on the team. They've got some talented players, but this is an underachieving team right now. This Atlanta, remember when Kirk went there, Atlanta was the odds-on favorite with the talent that they have on that football team to win the division.
Any concerns about Kirk, the way he's playing, Jeff? 36 years of age, coming off that torn Achilles last year.
Well, you know him better than anybody, right? And you've watched him up close. You know him as a person. The thing I see, Neil, is I don't see him drive the football. There were some throws yesterday that got picked that, he just didn't get. I don't know if it's because of his Achilles tendon. There's got to be, because you don't see that rapid a decline of arm strength usually. And I think it's, you throw from your feet up, and I just think that there's more to that than he's letting on. He's a tough guy.
Yeah, he's fighting off Father Time and Michael Penix Jr. now, who's waiting in the wings. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers now then, Jeff, we'll just touch on this game briefly, have overtaken the Falcons. So the Bucs have won 3 games in a row, coupled with Atlanta losing 4 straight, means Tampa top the South, which they've won for the last 3 years. Baker Mayfield, 295 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. But this is where I think they're different now, Jeff. There's balance with the Bucs, 152 rushing yards and a touchdown as they beat the Raiders 28-13.
Yeah, Todd Bowles has done a good job down there quietly, which is Todd Bowles. He's a quiet guy. but quietly, like you say, they've won that division now 3 years in a row. I think they're in line to win it again. And they're playing in the division right now. They're playing the best football. They're playing the best team football. They're good on defense. They can run the ball now. They're not just reliant on Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield. So I think the Bucs are going to be a playoff team.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be one, Jeff. They beat the Cleveland Browns 27-14. It was the 21st regular season home victory in a row for the Steelers over the Browns. And before we get into the actual how this game was won, let's just reflect on this job that Mike Tomlin has done, because I don't know, maybe it's unfair because the Steelers were a playoff team last year, but they're always there or thereabouts. I didn't expect them to have 10 wins after 14 weeks of the regular season. What do you think of what's happening in Pittsburgh?
Well, I think the first thing that Tomlin needs to get credit for, and the organization needs to get credit for, what a stroke of genius to go out and bring in Russell Wilson, because so many people had said that he's trouble in the locker room. He's selfish. He's a cancer in your team. He's, the game is past him now. He's, on the backside of his career, talent deteriorated. You don't see any of that. You see a lot of what we saw out of Russell Wilson when he was, cooking, as they say, up in Seattle. And, he's found a new lease on life. And you see the leadership aspect of Russell Wilson with the Steelers. It's amazing how a change of environment can sometimes revitalize a guy's career.
And none of that plan worked perfectly at the start. Wilson gets injured in training camp. They go with Justin Fields early, and they're still winning with Fields. So you wondered whether there would be a temptation to stick with Justin Fields. But Mike Tomlin saw maybe a more complete offense with Russell Wilson at the helm.
Yeah, it's that old saying: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But he had another vision for what he wanted that offense to be. Let's be honest about Justin Fields. Justin Fields they were winning, but they were winning because of the defense.
Yes.
They weren't winning because of the offense. Now you see them push the ball down the field. They run the ball better. He's on the perimeter more. And you see what a true veteran quarterback. And I think Fields is going to make it. I think Fields is going to be a good player. But I think he's learning how to be a quarterback right now, and behind a guy who knows how to be a quarterback.
Well, when we look at how this game was won for the Steelers, Jeff, what's encouraging is it didn't have to be, as lovely as we like the Sam Darnold numbers, the Josh Allen, this was a bit of everyone. There were 2 interceptions of Jameis Winston, 3 sacks, 120 rushing yards as a team, and Russell Wilson threw 2 touchdown passes. And from the parts of the game that we were watching as our other games were unfolding, this was the Steelers were in control here. And that's what good teams do. They stubbed their toe against the Browns a couple of weeks ago in the snow. And this time they took care of business with a little bit of everyone. Yeah,
and you talk about, you hear guys say this after games, it was a total team win. Well, with the exception of special teams, I thought the Steelers dominated. There's 3 facets of the games: offense, defense, and special teams. And the Steelers dominated 2 of those 3. And usually if you win 2 out of 3, you're going to win the game.
The Miami Dolphins won their game. Maybe I will jump back on the bandwagon. No, I don't know. Should I? Come on. They beat the Jets 32-26. It keeps their playoff hopes alive. Realistically, the Dolphins have probably got to win out. Maybe they can drop one more, but realistically, they need to win all their games that remain. The Jets kicked a field goal, Jeff, to go ahead. But before that, Devontae Adams caught a pass and stepped out of bounds. I think he might have given the Dolphins 12 or 13 seconds extra there to work with. Miami kicker Jason Sanders field goal to tie it up, and then Tua throws the winning touchdown to Jonnu Smith in overtime. That was a mistake from a veteran receiver.
Yeah, it's one of those things with the Jets right now. They even veteran guys like Devontae, who, he's won an awful lot of football games in the National Football League, makes a critical mistake at a critical time, and they just seem to continually shoot themselves in the foot. They blow a coverage on the Jonnu Smith touchdown, and resilient, gutty win for the Dolphins at home. But, hey, they don't ask you how many. I mean, how you did it. They just ask how many. And the Dolphins got another W, which keeps them alive. Because if they had lost, I think you could have given them their last rites.
Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa threw for 331 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. A little bit more Tyreek Hill in this game, 10 for 115 and 1. Jalen Waddle had 9 for 99, caught a 2-point conversion to tie things up. The winning touchdown, Jeff, to Jonnu Smith was a big-time throw by Tua. It wasn't one of those cannon of an arm type throws, but it might sum up how he reads the field and what he means to the Dolphins.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. When you watch the ball, it was kind of wasn't a floater, but it was a soft touch pass in the corner, and it was a ball that he had to fit in. He had to layer it over an underneath defender and fit it in beneath the high defender. And, it was a poorly executed coverage by the Jets. But, hey, you're paid to throw the ball, not to play defense. So he got to give him credit. And, it's – one of those things we take for granted so much. I think when a guy comes back from a serious head injury, those are really, really difficult because he hears all the noise. He hears everybody, all the talk shows saying, you got to quit, you got to retire, you got to do all those things. And he's come back and he's played smarter and he's played very good football, I think.
Yeah, we talked about it on here before about the criticisms that have been of Tua in the past and now earning $53 million per year. But look what the Dolphins were without him. And look what they have been since he's come back. I mean, at least if they'd had Tua all the way through, this is not a perfect season for Miami. Far from it. They are a flawed team, but they would be a winning team right now.
Oh, no question. And I think, they'd be in the playoff conversations, certainly, if they'd had Tua the whole season.
Probably the best performance of Aaron Rodgers' young Jets career, 339 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. I think we saw the team still fighting, Jeff. We talked about that in our pregame show last night on Sky Sports, whether they would or wouldn't. Looks like they are, but like you said, they're just once you're snake bitten, you're snake bitten.
Yeah, I made a comment last night on the show about Thomas Brown. What did he do to deserve to be coaching the Bears? And I was in, that was half in jest, but I think about Jeff Ulbrich. Jeff's had a great career in the NFL as a player and then as a coach and then coordinator, and they were playing really good defense with the Jets. And there was some talk, about the possibility of him being a Dan Campbell-esque head coach. And then he gets the Jets job, interim job, right? And those things can do as much harm for you as they can do good for you, because they're going to remember this season and they're going to put his name next to it. The same thing, Thomas Brown, the Bears are a mess, right? And, he goes from being a position coach to being a coordinator to being a head coach in the shape of 3 weeks. And, that's a big, big ask. And, you want to be a head coach, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, you might only get one chance at it. Let's move on to Sunday Night Football. So this one finished the Chargers 17, the Kansas City Chiefs 19. Matthew Wright doinks a 31-yard field goal, and boy, did it hit the upright. It's lucky it went through, but it did go through as time expired. So the Chiefs win 19-17. They moved to 12-1. It was their 9th straight AFC West title. Jeff, we were wrapping up our show last night, and we were talking a little bit about Sunday Night Football. And I almost said, and then I thought, no, you've got to sell the game. I almost told everyone just to wait, fast forward to the final 2 minutes and see which crazy way the Chiefs won this time. But I thought, no, I'll sell it properly. But this is what they do. I mean, time and time again. And again, far from perfect. But when it mattered at the end of the game, the Chargers took a lead, 4.5 minutes left. That's twice as long as Patrick Mahomes would have needed.
It's all the cliches rolled into one. find a way to win, just tough it out, resilient win, all. But you know what? They do it it seems like every week. And you keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. You just keep waiting for the time when it doesn't happen. But their belief is so strong in that locker room. And, you watch them and they don't panic. They did not play great football yesterday,
right?
But they played just good enough football to win. And the rest of the league keeps saying, well, it's going to catch up to them some point. Well, maybe not. Maybe this is just what they're capable of.
I did watch that first half and think, are we about to watch a Mahomes gets injured type? And I'm not wishing that. I hope not. He's one of the biggest stars, but he's taking a beating now, Jeff. He took a beating in the first half. He was sacked 3 times in the game. Goodness knows how many hits by the end of it. And they have a rotation of tackles. They brought in DJ Humphries, who played for the first time this year, formerly the Cardinals, and he has a hamstring injury. He goes out of that game. That's the one concern is and I agree with you. They keep finding a way, and you can stack them up different ways. And as Mahomes said in his pre-game interview last night, just before the kickoff, he said, we don't care if we're going to score 50 or 5 points. We're going to win this game. That's their mentality, but I'm worried about Mahomes and the pressure that's.
Yeah, as you get into the playoffs and you play better teams and better defenses every week, and the pressure ratchets up and the stakes get higher with every throw and every snap of the game, at some point that comes to bear, the physical pounding that he's taken. And, Neil, I don't care who you are. And Patrick Mahomes is, he's a big guy and he's tough and all that stuff. But when you get hit the way he's starting to get hit, and, he plays right on the edge. He plays on the lunatic fringe. He's not going to slide. He's one of those guys. And, those things add up. Add up.
Let's finish off in terms of looking at our games. Then we're going to make our player of the week and coach of the week picks. Going back to Thursday night. So, Jeff, I was in Ford Field. First time I've been there for Detroit's 34-31 win over Green Bay. I'll just say this and then we'll get into the game. The atmosphere was absolutely rocking at the start. You'd have seen this for the playoffs last year. They give you these bands that light up. They change the colors of them. So it all goes white, then it all goes blue, Lions blue. And it was deafening. But then when the game started, it was noisy when needed to be. But I sensed a nervousness amongst the Lions fans. They knew this was a big game against the Green Bay Packers, who, yes, the Lions have had the recent success, very recent success. But I wonder if those shackles of history are always on those Lions fans. I wonder where this is going to go wrong next. My point is, the fans might have been a little bit nervous and edgy. Their players and head coach didn't even blink.
All right. 5 times.
Let me just post that.
Yeah, there you go. 5 times in the game, he goes for it on 4th down. 5 times. And fails one in his own end, and it goes into the end zone. The Packers get a short field on, and they march it down and score.
And like you say, that doesn't concern him. He's going to do it his way. They have a way they want to play. They have a swagger about them. They believe in themselves. They know that they're physically and mentally tough. This is a team, Neil. We talk all the time about injuries, right? And San Francisco being beat up and all, hey, everybody goes through injuries. This team has gone through as many frontline defensive players out as you could imagine, right? Anzalone, who's the heart soul of that defense at linebacker, out. Aiden Hutchinson leading the league in sacks, out, right? And, and Rodriguez, out. But they just, like you say, don't blink.
Aleem McNeil, their defensive tackle, went out early in this game as well, Jeff. That's another huge player for them who went out. So we'll go to the end of the game. Second half was incredible. Quarterbacks marching up and down the field. It just felt like whoever had the ball last was going to win this game. And to that point, the Lions had a 4th and 1 with about 43 seconds left. So they could have kicked a long field goal. Not that long. I mean, makeable, very makeable. They'd probably make that kick. But you're going to leave about 35 seconds for Jordan Love to go down the field and counter what Jared Goff has done. Dan Campbell, as you said, he's having none of that. He actually said on the sideline, "Let's finish this now." Now, even from the high up in the cheap seats, Jeff, I was nervous because you could see Jared Goff fall into the ground as he's handing the ball off, but he manages to get it to David Montgomery, and they pick up the first down. But what a brave call from Dan Campbell. He just decided we're going to win it with the number one scoring offense in the NFL, not with our defense.
Yeah, and they win it just about any way they have to win it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he'll put it on his defense if he feels like that's the best way to win a football game. And certainly they have an incredible amount of faith in their offense. And it starts with that right tackle that they have, who is, I mean, we've seen some great offensive linemen in our time together watching the NFL. But I tell you what, Penei Sewell is maybe as good a right tackle. I would say Anthony Munoz is the best left tackle I've ever seen. Baselli, great left tackle. But as a right tackle, and Penei Sewell is about as good as I can remember.
Yeah, he led the way brilliantly on that Montgomery run, which set up Jake Bates winning field goal. It's 11 wins in a row now for the Lions. They have a club record 12 victories, and the big games keep coming because Sunday they're going to play at home against the Buffalo Bills. I mean, wow.
Just, you know what, you want to be the best, and I think this is the way Dan Campbell looks at this. You want to be the best, you got to beat the best, and let's go. He doesn't care who they line up. It could be Kansas City, it'd be Buffalo, it'd be Baltimore. You just bring them on. Let's go.
He definitely has that attitude. Let's finish off with our player. I'm going to do player of the week, and you do coach of the week, Jeff. I'm going to say it's hard to ignore Josh Allen, but I'm going to go Sam Darnold because of what it would have meant to him to face off against Kirk Cousins and to get the Vikings to 11 wins and to have only 6 incompletions while doing it, while stretching the field consistently. So it wasn't like he was dinking and dunking. They were in attack mode, the Vikings. And Sam Darnold had almost as many touchdown passes as incompletions. I thought he was special, Jeff, especially given the way they were playing.
Yeah, I think so. And there's going to be a lot of when you talk about the quarterback and decisions at the quarterback position, and I mean, they had to make a decision last year that they were not going to pay Kirk Cousins and give him the long-term security that he wanted. So there was no, and I think Cousins will admit this, there was not animosity in the negotiations, but they made a business decision. And a lot of people said, what are you doing? You've got a good football team, and you're going to put it in Sam Darnold's hands as opposed to Kirk Cousins' hands. That's not good football, right? Well, I think Connolly, the front office, everybody in the organization can now say, see, I told you, he's good enough.
Who is your coach of the week then, Jeff?
I'm going to go because I thought it was a masterful display of preparing a team, right, which is part of it, and then executing a plan and making adjustments on the fly by Sean McVay in that game last night against the Bills.
Right. I think part of that, Jeff, and we kind of touched on this earlier, is again managing those emotions in the game because you're playing against a Patrick Mahomes type player. Like we all sense that there was a Josh Allen comeback coming, and when the game gets to 38-35, your job if you're Sean McVay is to say, right, let's now go and do it again. I know you've had to do it 5 times for touchdowns already. Let's go and do it again. It's part of that in-game stuff, isn't it, as well, to manage the emotions, not just the X's and O's.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really insightful comment because, you're on the sideline. It is wild on the sideline, and you have to be able to understand the flow of the game. And instead of going by the book and saying, okay, now we got a 10-point lead. There's 4 minutes left. Let's just milk it, right? He knew they had to keep scoring. He knew that, that no lead was safe. And then to go down there, and I thought Nakua's comment was so good last night after the game. He talked about they came out of the huddle on the touchdown pass. When the Bills went zero coverage, they blitzed. And Stafford told him as they came out of the huddle, if we get zero coverage, we're going to throw the screen to you.
Right.
And I mean, it was like, that's great football. Great football.
It's kind of summed up the week. When you look at these games, it wasn't the banner games across. I mean, the Thursday night game was a real kind of one that was catching the eye. Sunday night football as well. But Jeff, that's what the NFL does. It serves up drama no matter what the matchups. And we saw that on Sunday. It was a great weekend.
No question. It was really a great weekend. And it was especially great because I got to get a chance to get back here and be with you and Phoebe and J Bell and be in the studio again.
And we record this podcast and it's not midnight in Hawaii. Your whole day's ahead of you, Jeff. You haven't got to go home.
That's exactly right. Go back to bed.
Yeah, exactly. Back to bed. All right. So we're going to wrap up this edition of Inside the Huddle. I'll be back on Thursday with Phoebe to look ahead to week 15. Good to have you back with us, Jeff. Until next week, say goodbye to the good folks.
Aloha.